Okay, let's get started. Hello everybody. Today I have swapped a little bit the content around. This has a very simple reason. Supply chain management is probably a topic that is actually quite applied in project management, and hence I wanted to discuss like different applications and where we are with it first. And then afterwards we jump into actor network theory and look at actually how we communicate in project networks. Yeah? And this is a new way of looking at it. It's not that new, you will actually see the literature goes back to the 80s, but we haven't applied it in projects before. We have been a few projects like the Olympics, like defense projects that were quite large, and they have a profound impact on how success actually emerges. So it's a very powerful concept. Okay, let's get started. Oh, I am on the supply chain management side. So I wanted really to start off. What is supply chain management to you? Did you have maybe some definitions? What do you understand under this? Any ideas?
Construction will be subcontractors.
Okay, so industry specific, I like it, yeah. So construction industry, this is traditionally the subcontractors. Yeah, and sub, what is then the overarching umbrella? Subcontractor, supply chain, so and who leads it?
Site manager.
Yeah, and who does the site manager normally represent if you have subcontractors?
Main contractor.
Yeah. So you have the main contractor representing whom? Client. Yeah. So the recognition that the client is not fully capable is a question, but maybe doesn't want to carry that process, so they actually outsources to a main contractor, and the main contractor then doesn't do it himself, but subcontracts. Yeah? So this is kind of the idea. This was a good example, typical in construction. What is the supply chain maybe in other industries, if we play it by industries? Maybe another example?
Like where Apple get the chips from for their phones.
Yeah. So it can be as well product or assembly part specific supply chains. Yeah, based on a product that is expertise based. Another one, recent one, always currently in the media, is the new plane carriers that are being built from BE1170, Thales. It's a group that build big ships. And if you look into that, the supply chain is even producing in parallel. Yeah, so they're building the segments for the shipping body in separate docks because it's such a big ship. So size can be as well a divider of the supply chain. So literally they do the same job, just specific on the body parts of the ship, and then ship the body parts into one harbor and assemble it there. Yeah, in a key, if you're interested in this, it's in Glasgow. Yeah, it's worthwhile traveling there if you're interested. This is very visible. Yeah, the supply chain, and you can see as well they have the advertisement quite big, often on the segments to show that they actually built this segment. Yeah, do we do the same in construction, for example?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. So then it's, for example, on the construction side, when you see the different names of the companies. This is not necessary. Yeah? If you're a subcontractor or specialist contractors, you're sometimes hidden under the umbrella of the main contractor. This is quite common too. Yeah. Okay. Good start. I've tried to summarize this. This comes really from literature, if you want. So it's the management of multiple relationships. We have already looked at different industries here in a few examples, yeah. And this actually evolved further, not a chain of businesses with one-to-one. So it's not just one of those options, it can be all of them. Yeah? So it's a chain of businesses with one-to-one relationships. Yeah, then as well business-to-business relationships potentially. Yeah, this is in a way the subcontractors with the main contractors. Yeah, or a network of multiple businesses and relationships. And last but not least, often the management of a supply chain is an attempt to optimize. Yeah, so solutions are often standardizations or innovation. Yeah, this is often what you do. And it's often driven from a lead company. Yeah, sometimes you have a consultancy that manages as well supply chains. So the aim is often total business process excellence. So that sounds quite heavy, but we will make sense of this now. So with the definitions, it's such a thing. Yeah, I have to give you a few more because it gets a little bit technical here. So there are 4 main uses really of the supply chain. One is really integrates business functions, yeah, flow of materials, information, inbound to outbound. What could that be, inbound to outbound? Material flow, what could that be?
You get raw material and then you
Spot on, yeah. So raw materials to the final product that you're providing or service that you're providing, yeah. So this is literally what we are trying to do, and then as well the management of dyadic or two-party relationships. We have a look at that. This doesn't have to be yet fully understood, and then a chain of business. Yeah, this can be in-house. This can be as well inter-organizational. So going out of the own company. Yeah. And then, of course, last but not least, those are the more sophisticated definitions, network of interconnected businesses. So for most of you, this is what you will face at some point. You will probably manage the project within a defined project context, but probably work with other companies together who have as well an interest at heart. Yeah, so, and we are after delivering the package required to the end customer or end user. So it's a shift from our focus to deliver to a client. In some industry we have another factor, we have a patient. This is really a kind of the content. Here we say the patient doesn't have to understand it as long as we help him. So there are different notions with a sophistication of those networks, which is interesting. But again, we will have a look at the definition. Important to recognize is if you engage with the literature in this topic and you want to go into this, you will see that this actually even differs from industry to industry. Companies have even their own definitions of it, but this is not a problem. It comes really down to the management of operations across organizational boundaries with supply chain management. Yeah, and then often we are after, this is good literature, yeah, a common philosophy or even ideology. Yeah, this is idiocratic, but in reality it's normally a shared vision, yeah, or shared objectives. This is normally what we are quite happy with. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be drastic, but it's idealized. Yeah? And then you actually arrive at commercial benefits. So this is often a huge business drive if you do something like that. So where do we do such thing? Where do we come across such relationships? Do we come across? Do we do that in construction? You said no, it's all subcontractors. We rent it out. Do we have situation where we have a whole supply chain and apply for construction projects, for example? No, there's criticism in the last row. No, we don't really do this. This is true for a majority of the industry, but there are niches where we do this. When do we do this? When do we have to specify who we work with? Are there such projects? Okay, nobody worked in public projects yet, I assume. Normally, this is one way, yeah. So if the client is actually kind of, this is often a strange relationship, then you are in for a partnership or something like that. Yeah, this is a particular contract form with long-term objectives. So in construction, you can actually have predefined supply chains that you have to use. You can do it, but you are tied to the supply chain. Yeah, those are the preferred subcontractors, for example, to work with. We do that often in large bits. Yeah, so for example, when Singapore Airlines thinks about what planes to buy in the future, then you will see the whole Airbus supply chain will try to promote their product of, for example, the A380, biggest plane probably at the moment, to actually fulfill the needs of Singapore Airlines. Yeah, until they adapt the whole supply chain, then shows adversity towards the requirements of Singapore Airlines as a client. Yeah, similar in shipbuilding and many other industries. Yeah, we are particularly good with this in IT project or marketing. We often try to jump into that very deeply. Yeah, so I have the examples with it, so don't worry, this will make sense in a second. Yeah, just to familiarize with the different relationships, chains, and networks that I referred to. So what does that come down to? We have this comes from Holland. It's old literature. Yeah? We have abandoned this. It becomes popular at the moment again. Yeah? So it shows you whenever we have an economic crisis, this is a hot topic. Yeah, if we have like a lot of projects, then everybody abandons it, makes their own thing. But when we are in crisis, this is a very good topic. Yeah, so we have internal. This is we partner across departments. For example, in the first, Diadic. This is we may go out of our company. Yeah, we decide to go actually with somebody else. This is relationship based. Yeah, then you have chains. This is external, and you don't even know the one next down the chain. Yeah, so you get a friend to do it, and he's like, oh, this is a lot, and he gets 2 other friends to do it. Yeah, this is kind of the idea. Yeah, so and then we have a whole network. This is a little bit what I was just referring to with the shipping industry. They kind of do the same thing, but because of capacity and timing, they have basically given it to somebody else that has the capacity to do so. Yeah. And maybe some examples. So this is integration of business function. You know, where do we have such a thing? Supply chain, what was usually outsourced, you take it actually in. Did you have an example for this? Or you will be disappointed with my example, I think. But is there such a thing? So internal relationship building. Yeah? So instead of subcontracting, we do it ourselves. Where do we do things like that? We have that everywhere around you. Yeah, so think about anybody flown here. Yeah, then you will have probably come across it. There is a traditional way of doing it, and then there's a new way. Who has flown with Ryanair or EasyJet before? Yeah. Do you still go to the till and get printed your boarding pass? No. Yeah. So there were some were still nodding. So I appreciate the service as well, but it's £50 extra. Yeah? So there is clearly an incentive set. Yeah? So there is a notion of the internal part. Oh, actually, sorry, I have first named them. Oh, the order of my slides. Okay, never mind. So then we have two-party relationships with suppliers. Yeah. Actually, let's do this first. So then we have the chain of businesses, including suppliers. And then we have the network of interconnected businesses, so parallel things are done somewhere else. Yeah. So now we come to the example. Sorry, I hope. Yeah. Yeah. So you do that now all. Yeah. In the past, this was a service provided by actually airports or a company that did that for you. Yeah. Now we are doing this. Yeah. It's integrated to our skill set. Yeah. So. You're probably quite good. It's actually tricky. With different companies, you have different schemes. Yeah? So you have to print first the pre-ticket, and then get the right ticket, and booking a seat costs extra, but you have more legroom. Yeah? So it's quite incentivized towards the user. If it's always good is a different question. Yeah? Two-party relationship. Here I had Amazon. Amazon actually has now a lot, they have actually now a network, but Amazon at the time was thinking about going in a relationship contract with FedEx, here Royal Mail in the UK. Yeah, so worldwide they went into partnerships with supplying their parcels. This was quite interesting, and they have kind of built a relationship. And what has that led to? What can you do now when you order a book? What do you want to know if you buy? Actually, does anybody still buy books?
Can you return or not?
Yeah.
Can you return it or not?
Yeah, return it or not. This is already, I like this. Yeah, so can I have a look first?
Yeah.
And if I don't like it, I give it
Yeah.
back, and I want the money back
Yeah.
as new. Yeah. So and this is one option. Yeah, this is actually newer. What was the first thing?
How
Well-
many days it will be to see?
Yeah, and you can see where it is as well. Yeah, so you if you actually kind of geotag it, you see as well where the distribution centers are in the UK. Yeah, you see new places on the map that you didn't even know exist. Yeah, and then with Google you can scroll in and you see a big hole. So it's a big distribution center. Yeah, but Amazon has now this live tracking. Yeah, you know as well when it's arriving and where it's arriving. Thank you. Yeah. So there are many other ones. Do you have another example maybe of something like that? Where do we do this as well? Do we do this in construction again?
Design and build.
Yeah. Oh, this goes in the right direction. Yeah. So contractually, design and build is a good one. I was actually thinking about something a lot easier.
I have an example. UK Border Agency, they have visa service centers.
Ooh, I like that. Wait, you have to explain more. UK
Border Agency.
border agency. Yeah.
You make an application, you drop to like Jerry's FedEx, and then they send on your behalf to UK Border Agency or Embassy.
Okay. So there are. Is this just FedEx that does it, or is it all delivery services?
I think for visa services, you have to make an application and print out and go to Jerry's FedEx. And they
Jerry's
send-
FedEx.
Yeah.
That is very specific. So there's clearly one person has really, or one company has seen a business opportunity here. Yeah, so with visa application, you can send it to the UK border agency
To UK Border Agency
Yeah.
or Embassy.
or the embassy.
Yeah.
And do they bring it back to
They
you
have
too?
visa centers actually, so they have the desk, you drop your application there.
Okay.
And they will carry for you and send procedures back as well.
So this is actually pretty cool. And can you see where it is, where your passport
Yeah,
is?
yeah, they have the tracking system as well.
Yeah, okay. And this is kind of important. If you travel international, it's kind of, it feels a little bit odd to not have the passport, yeah, quite frankly. I've been in that position a few times, yeah, so it's not nice, especially if you're relying on visa, yeah. So very, very good example, yeah. Let's think about another one, a chain of businesses. Here, yeah, automotive is a typical example. I put as well here, aerospace as a whole sector is kind of in there as well. Yeah, so what is that actually? External? Does anybody know a little bit about automotive or aerospace? Plane building or something like that? Does anybody have an alternative one? Automotive or other industries? We have that potentially as well in all industries, I assume.
Could it be that, for instance, Bosch are making some parts for
Yeah.
Injections.
Yeah. So you think here still along the automotive? Yeah, good examples. Yeah. So it's specific parts that are coming from. You would probably call it in construction specialist contractors, but here it's actually manufacturers that have specialized on particular parts, and they have refined their business to different automotive sectors. Yeah, so you often have that they even provide to a few supply chains, yeah, which can cause tension. Yeah, more recently we had that actually, the Germans in Baden-Württemberg were kind of upset. They threw a few designers out, and the Chinese were quite keen on having their own company. It was a national aim actually. Yeah, it was quite interesting. Those guys left in Baden-Württemberg, formerly with Porsche and VW, Audi, yeah, but which is VW, and were recruited straight away in China. And if you look at recent developments, they actually have a new car in China, which is cheaper, pretty good quality, quite frankly. Yeah, there are some other brands that are pretty impressed with this, and they have a full functional supply chain. Now this is quite impressive. So sometimes national endeavors can even spin into this, yeah. But okay, this was probably a little bit too large example. So maybe another one with external relationships that you're aware of. One? I take any. Personal ones. Again, construction, yeah, prefabrication, yeah, this is a good one. Well, what do we have there, for example, as parts that get,
Facade, sometimes modules,
yeah,
sometimes
sometimes windows, if you go for segment building, yeah, you're spot on, yeah. A good example, more personal, yeah, shall we go with the financial services? Has anybody transferred money from one country to the other? That is normally when you are in this situation. And your banks will let you know if your supply chain ends. It's normally a fee, administration costs. So you had to deal with this, it's £15. Doesn't matter how much you're transferring. Is it 20 million? Doesn't matter. £5, same price. Huh? So pragmatic approach. So this is when you notice external chains. Last but not least, with network, this is kind of outdated, but it's a cool example. So I didn't want to actually throw it out. Networks, maybe other networks? Yeah, I have here Dell. We will look into that in a second. This is actually a case study that I was quite keen on. Do you know another network?
Samsung,
Yeah, Samsung, but which product maybe?
Samsung Galaxy.
Okay, so the mobile.
Mobile, and
Yeah,
they do
spot on.
notepads now, and they do tablets, lots of products there.
Yeah, but why a network? Is it not the supply chain?
Because the mobile is obviously connecting people, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, Samsung has a network. Yeah, the iPhone was actually relying on a supply chain, and the irony was that one of the suppliers actually had difficulties to produce in the quantities, and it slowed the whole production of the new iPhone down. That was quite interesting. This is when you see that there are actually not alternatives. So a network has certain strengths, especially when you're at the top of the supply chain. Yeah? If you're in the supply chain, you have a competitor. It's not so nice. Yeah. So there are different approaches to this. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at this. A few examples. Yeah. Let's start with maybe more familiar ones. Does everybody know this company? What do they do? Retail. Yeah. Spot on. Yeah. And I've just used here a very simple example. I wanted to go for some perfume. Yeah. So actually, is it perfume? I have to. Yeah, it's perfume for me. Yeah. So basically, it starts at the maybe even timber industry. This is the packaging. Yeah. Then it comes to the manufacturer who makes by magic, no, by process paper out of it. And then there's maybe another company that produces this into packaging and prints it nicely. That it's as well shiny and that we are attracted to it. So they are specialized on that. And then at the same time, the actual perfume, there is probably a chemical manufacturer, maybe an oil company that gives a basis. Yeah? And then you have a detergent producer. Then you have, of course, the essences that go into it. And then you have Procter & Gamble around the corner here, or maybe other manufacturers that actually produce it for you and put it into the nice bottles as well. Then Walmart has actually kind of well, they have actually storehouses, or did have it when I actually wrote this example. So this is actually quite, this is 3 years ago. I think they have actually shifted. They had huge problem in Europe with establishing themselves. And then they basically deliver on request to the Walmart. Yeah? And it's of course, this gets refilled depending on how many people empty the shelves. Now this is a feedback mechanism. So if you grab, if I grab like a few perfume bottles out because I like to buy package deals, no I don't really, but anyway, so for this argument, yeah, then they would actually realize, okay, we sold 3 pieces, and if they do that the whole day, then they may run out on that, and then they ask basically the storage to reorder or basically distribute this to them. Yeah. So How does it actually look? Well, they have actually a lot of other suppliers and other manufacturers. Yeah, with Procter and Gamble, they actually bottle and manufacture this in many countries. Yeah, so even the manufacturer itself has actually kind of a competitive network, and normally you have even interlinkage between this. So this is in a way an idea of how they actually communicate. And in this case, it's a push system. Yeah? So the arrows go upwards. So the supplier hears from the distributor. Basically, the supplier is asking the distributor, "Hey, do you need more of the stuff? Is my stuff requested?" And then the distributor gives them the information, and then the supplier is basically putting the aggregates or ingredients forward to the manufacturer. So it's a push system. The manufacturer is interested in the customers. So those are the relationships. There is a very good paper to this as well if you're interested in this.
So between retailer and customer, do you have any kind of promotion thing like advertisement and everything? Where does it
Yeah.
fit?
So the retailer would actually advertise it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
retailer.
this is actually they have a whole list of activities that they have hidden behind the arrows. We come to that in a second. Yeah. To actually get our head around that. Yeah. But yeah, it's advertisement as well. But this was in a way already where it came to the packaging. So the packaging would do, for example, their research, as well the oil and bottle. It's not really bottle. It's nearly an art piece in a perfume often, isn't it? But so those chains would be very interested in this too. Yeah. Then I have a very practical example. What is BAA? What does it stand for? Okay, wait, I give you one slide. What is BAA? Does anybody know? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, British Airport Authority. It's a big cluster. They used to be a national organization, now they're an international organization. This is literally, one of my pictures disappeared, this is bad. So this was in the middle actually the project, yeah? But okay, never mind. So you have like different connection points, and you can see that they actually they are focused on their specialism, yeah? And this goes into the project info point, yeah? So technical standards, this is what they define. And then they have as well the projects that they actually perform, but they have strong support from different companies. And you can actually look into this. I have as well pictures of the web page, how they actually structure their process. And you can see they work with IBM, TVC, and then as well AMEC, so just to name a few. Yeah? But this is actually quite interesting because they have actually integrated the whole process. So they actually say, we do it all for you. And this is quite fascinating. So they help in the development. This is they do the stakeholder consultation that we did. Yeah. So define the needs, develop solutions with stakeholder engagement. Yeah. So they steer this in a way from consultants. They have internalized that, but of course hidden with supply chain. Yeah. And then enable delivery. Then when it comes to the design and engineering. They have said as well as a solution in-house, but again in the supply chain. Yeah. So define the appropriate quality, enable quality solutions, and then of course enable building regulations compliance. Now this is a construction example. Design and engineering, for example. Yeah. Then you have the supply chain. They do that too. Now they focus on that. Develop requirements. Then research. What do they actually need? What is the best technology solution that we can integrate? Yeah. And then acquire, and then, of course, fulfillment of the obligations that they identified in the development phase. And then, last but not least, project delivery. We know this. Definition, design, manufacture, and assembly. So this is how they go about with this. And then, last but not least, they even go into the maintenance. This is bad to read, but when you have the PowerPoint slide, go into the web page, and then you can play around with it. There's well examples, so this is really cool stuff. In the maintenance, they have planning, and then scheduling, and work compliance. Yeah, so completion, sorry. Well, it's the same thing, yeah? Work completion, literally. Yeah, so they have that in-house, and it's of course very powerful. Yeah. Now we come to the Dell computers. I hope that makes sense. Yeah? So they have basically integrated the whole life cycle that goes beyond our project life cycle. And they don't do that because they're a charitable company. They have done the business assessment and realized this is a great opportunity for them. Yeah? They do that now as well outside of the UK. They are now a global player. Yeah? With Dell computers, this was an interesting one. This is actually quite some time ago. They actually had a few sales offices, as you can see. Now this has shifted quite a bit around. Yeah, so they had 43 sales offices where they were there to actually advertise and bring it to retailers. But sales presence was in 170 countries. You know, so they sold it literally from their strategic points and then went via retailers. Yeah, but this is a lie, because the retailers itself were actually kind of fake platforms. It was a user platform. That's now like the Apple store. If you have been on that, it's the same idea. Not the ones in the shopping center, but the online one. 6 manufacturing sites. Yeah. What did I mean by this? Well, they kind of had the suppliers, and then the Dell model, and then the customers, and that meant that Dell had the interface with the customer. Did anybody have a Dell computer? Yes. Oh, as well. Okay. So how did you get it? When did you get it? Yeah, when? Oh, sorry. You too? Okay. 2 years ago. How did you get it? No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is now new. You're spot on. Yeah, so they have actually changed the strategy. But traditionally, they were actually famous that you had the interface directly with the user. Yeah, but you're quite right.
I bought mine online.
You bought yours.
You just make it up and you say what you want.
Yeah.
Go in and
Yeah, super example. So we had the example actually once. Yeah. So the idea with Dell was you assemble your own laptop or computer, yeah, and then you get it delivered directly, and they even plug it in for you and make sure that it's running. Yeah. So this was actually pretty cool. They have now adapted, so you can now buy it as well in a shop. They had realized that they had cut a corner out there that was actually quite profitable. But just for the supply chain reason, so you can see that the suppliers with the parts, then logistics hubs to actually bring it to the Dell factory to deliver it on demand to the customer. Yeah? So there was actually, the logistic hubs would actually get the request from the delivery trucks to deliver to a customer, and that would be when they supply actually the parts to the factory to be assembled. Yeah, and you can see what supplier owned and Dell owned, and again, they did that for profitability reasons. Yeah? So it's a very powerful approach. Okay, so we had now a few supply chain examples. Let's have a look a little bit at the principles. We had that earlier. So there's clearly something to do with getting aggregates, shipping the aggregates to a factory, then there's a sales interaction, a storage house, logistics, and then the sale to the customer. Yeah, this is traditionally associated with the supply upstream. Yeah? And then we have the demand chain. This is the customer requests. The markets want more from you. Yeah? And this is a downstream. So this is a very safe model to play by. With projects, this is very, very difficult to actually maintain. If you have that contingency that you can run as well on I don't want to say guaranteed budget, but that you have like a stable return on your investment. This is literally what that is for, yeah? And it's very powerful. So if nobody demands your product, you don't produce it. Yeah, so you basically compromise, or you basically have no bad costs in your portfolio if you actually run an approach like that. Yeah. There is an issue. This is how it should be, and there are examples. I will give them to you in a second where it works. Now, I do have to pick here on the construction industry because they are wonderful example. We come now with design and build to new ways of looking at this. But traditionally, we had the wonderful thing. So it's quite some time ago. You see my reference, 1998. Yeah, and it was all about advances in engineering software. Yeah? So it shows you already where the hopes came from. Yeah, they wanted an integrated framework to actually finally move to design and construction. And the problem that they recognized was described quite memorably as the over-the-wall syndrome. And it meant that you have a chain of people. And to pick a little bit on myself, I remember when I was young and I was a student, I had a little bit of this too. We broke work up if we had a team work to do. And I remember quite a few of those. And we had one big homework that determined if you had a bachelor or not. Yeah? So in Germany we have an odd system. You either made it with your team or you didn't. And I got the coordination, so I planned everything out, how my team members should do it, and then they were actually sending me the documents so that I would edit it together. This was, of course, nicely thought. They didn't actually understand what I planned for them. So, but I gave them the document and said, here, you do this, and when you're ready, in 1 month, you give me your stuff, and I edit it together, we submit. Yeah, this was a dream, but this was the over-the-wall syndrome, yeah? So then my friend started actually doing the design and so forth, and he handed it on to the structural engineer, who then handed it on to the quantity surveyors, and it came back, and it was something completely different what I had planned. Yeah, I'd given them something completely different. And so I was deeply frustrated with it, but then pragmatism kicked in, yeah, we had to deliver. So, yeah. We made it. So this is all I say. It was many sleepless nights for me. I learned a lot there. So we have that as well in construction, and it's a big problem. Yeah? If we look actually into retail and as well, retail has basically optimized this. Retail exists as a market, and nobody is surprised about that anymore. Yeah? In the past, it was actually the big manufacturers of the foods themselves that had they approached the local shop. Yeah, and it was a small shop often. It was not a market chain. So they have figured something very important out. And they're probably Champions League players in the supply chain management game that we can learn a lot from. So when we have a look, here, a good example. Yeah? By the way, this was keywords. I have to apologize here. Yeah? Marks and Spencer, helping you look and feel fantastic. This is what we're after. Yeah? So when you look into this, yeah, they were actually at the forefront of the supply chain and logistics. Yeah? In the past, we did this with stock controls through the ages with manual, writing down. Yeah? So this is something that we recognize potentially in our industry as bureaucracy or administration. Yeah, but this is already, we were not happy with the way it's done. Yeah? So traditionally it was just manual counting and actually seeing what you have in the stock. Yeah? And then you had something called the Kimball tax. This is kind of specific to probably fashion industry and if you go into the retail sector as a whole. But saying so, even in when I worked in the beverage and food industry, we still found that in a lot of companies in Southern Africa. Yeah, and although it was 1970s where the barcode came, this is still what I was fighting with. Yeah? So there was actually getting rid of the barcode and intelligent labels. And I did that ironically in 2003. Yeah? That was in South Africa. Yeah, and that was like huge manufacturing plants, counting the parts. A lot of fun. Yeah? I had a very motivated team. They looked forward to every day of taking the parts and gluing like a little chip in it. This is how you create real motivation. If you can pull off a project like that, then you understand something about it. Yeah? But anyway, the intelligent labels came in 2003. And what do we do now? Is this where we are at the moment? Yeah? What?
Which used to do the codes of,
Yeah, you have here a point. With Northumbria, just to show it, we are kind of still 1970s. Yeah? This is a sad realization. Yeah? In a way, in my past company, we had kind of moved beyond that, but not here yet. So we do like we do like solutions that have been tried for a long time. This is not somewhere. Yeah? So in a way, we go with the safe ones. Intelligent labels are not yet safe. Yeah? Maybe soon to come. Yeah. Now we have even a better ones. So it's actually in the textiles. Yeah, it's a material. We manipulate actually the material, so we don't even have any additional materials. Yeah, because the intelligent labels were often metal, and there were a lot of issues with it. Yeah, if you actually have like yeah, what is it actually called, the back? What is the name? Who knows what the label is called in the back traditionally with a shirt or something like that? What is that called? Label? Okay, just label. So like literally the plastic label slip that you have in the back of a shirt or potentially in the trousers. This was actually recognized if you wash it a lot and you have like a little metal chip in it. It's not so good for your skin, yeah, quite frankly. But you have to wear it a lot and kind of rip the label so that it's really bad for you. But it's not good either. Yeah? So this is why we have moved on, and now we have actually intelligent chips. But Marks and Spencer's didn't have that yet in their webpage. Yeah? So unfortunately, I don't have that option there. Yeah? But okay, here is how it works. This is pretty much as well what we did at PepsiCo. As soon as a part would break down, we would actually, depending if it's like takes a lot of time to order, we would have one in stock. If it doesn't take too long, then we would place this with a direct order system actually to our suppliers. Yeah? And here the same. So first of all, you need the intelligent label. You kind of recognize it as a unique identity. This is very important. Yeah? Then you attach it to a product. Here added to a wonderful dinner jacket. Yeah? And then a third step is of course scanned by the associated unit, that you know that this asset actually exists. So it's very primitive in a way. But so this is when it comes into existence in your asset register. I hope that makes sense. Then this is secured in a computer that actually kind of records this, and then the logical line of the product is actually to be dispatched to distribution center, but we don't do so before we don't get the request actually from the, for example, sales advisor that recognizes that there's a need. Yeah, or the shopping center says, okay, new season has started. Yeah, in the fashion industry, we are quite in. How many fashion seasons do we have?
4.
Per year? 4. Yeah, okay, 4. This is kind of traditional. Yeah, personally, what is your fashion season? How often do you go for new clothes?
Depends. If you've got bonus from your company, then you go for new clothes. If not,
okay, so you make it depending on the bonus scheme, yeah? So it's a reward structure to your company, yeah? If they pay you a lot, then you present a lot of fashion in the company. But
so it's crisis now, there is no fashion.
okay, so crisis at the moment, so 1 fashion per year, yeah?
Me.
Yeah. And it gets kind of tough with summer and season, yeah, and winter. It's kind of on the edge. Yeah, but you get the idea, yeah? So we have actually integrated as well product circles that accelerate this. Yeah? So this was actually quite smart from the fashion industry. We don't have that yet in construction or aerospace. I would like to see that actually. You know, the summer plane, completely glass, winter plane, a little bit more cozy, yeah, something like that. Yeah, well, why not? But yeah, not yet the case. So, but anyway, so coming back to this, this is really a pull system. And then last but not least, actually they do look slightly different. We have that as well in retail. You actually remove the chip or label and reuse it, but we had moved on to small chips that we actually left in the material. Yeah, because the chips became so cheap. So that was again a cost evaluation. Yeah, so this is a Marks and Spencer example. This has of course implications. Yeah, where does that actually impact on? Where is it effective? Yeah, this is a big question. And there are benefits associated with quality, cost, and delivery. This is cool stuff for us. Yeah, this is us projects. This is what we are looking for. Focus on developing core competencies. Oh, this is very good. And encourage innovations throughout the supply chain. Yeah, what can that be? Where does innovation come from in a supply chain? Where does innovation come from? People. That was a good answer. I like that.
New products maybe?
Yeah, new products. So who decides on that?
You just maybe implement new design and then you need new kind of products. Depends.
Yeah, so top approach. Yeah, so retailer, you have a new design, hence you need new material. You potentially change your supply chain. Yeah, this is quite drastic. Yeah, if you are interested in this, there are case studies as well around that. With Dolce & Gabbana, it's a 3G groups. Yeah, it's a design label group. They actually completely reinvent their supply chain depending on what they actually want to do. Yeah? Silk you get from some places, then cashmere or other materials, especially on the high-end market, are coming from other areas. Yeah, and they fall in and out basically of it. But innovation comes from all sides. Yeah, it can be push of supply chain. It can come from your subcontractors that try to promote new technologies that are more sufficient, but it can come as well from top down. Yeah, so especially in our sector, unfortunately, or my sector that I worked in, when you look at the beverage industry, it's often coming from the interface companies to the customer. Yeah, so in PepsiCo or Nestle kind of define a lot of directions for innovation, but of course then the supply chain is responding and kind of coming up with a solution to it. So it works in both ways, and then it's a question of integrating. Then we have of course maturity towards establishing performance measurement and management as well along the supply chain. Yeah, this is really building a relationship that you're performing kind of collaboratively. Yeah. And then there's of course as well enhanced customer satisfaction. So you can see as well if your aspect is actually appreciated. Yeah, so for example, automotive, we often see it as one car that you buy as a package. But if you actually like fast driving or fast braking, then you may have appreciation of certain brakes over other ones. Yeah, or parking systems. Yeah, we have now in the new cars automated parking. So I know I picture on my dad, because his eyesight goes a little bit. Yeah, this is a bad example, but parking, he kind of plays it. I've worked in other countries where you can bump into the car in front of you, so you drive by hearing. Yeah, so you drive backward and then, okay, so we have to drive forward now. Yeah, so this is literally the driving that he has arrived at. But we have removed this danger. Yeah, and by the way, in Switzerland, this is not appreciated if you are bumping into the car. Yeah, very proud of that. They come running out of their house. You destroyed my car. Yeah, this is and it's nothing. Yeah, but. Yeah, so there's a huge issue here. So with this automated parking, this is a solution that came actually to customer satisfaction. Yeah, this is why he picked the car that he's driving now.
They must have the opposite idea in Ibiza because every car you see is dented.
Pardon?
They must have the opposite idea in Ibiza because every car you see has got some sort of dent in it.
Yeah, Ibiza is one place where you can park by hearing. I think this is legitimized. Yeah, in Switzerland it's not legitimized. Yeah, they come with the police after you. You have to pay for this. Actually, they prefer you keep that car, you buy me a new car. This is their preference. Yeah? So it's kind of tricky. Yeah? And then, of course, we have a more integrated approach, which really refers to the cradle to grave. Yeah? In a way, we take ownership of the whole product or service life cycle. Yeah? It's a powerful thing, but not always feasible. Yeah? But we have to have a look at this. There's a lot to learn, yeah? And we potentially maybe in the supply chain of this. So what is this all about? There are hidden values actually with it, and it's the integration of the value chain. Yeah, and this is literally how we arrived there. So the evolution of supply chain management comes really a long way, and more recently we actually arrived at this, what I mentioned, the value chain approach. But if you look at it, it was probably around the 70s, focus on material and components. How can we make them actually more friendly to production? So in some industries that meant filtering or cleaning. Then there was a move, once we had that in control or a good understanding, we had to look at developing better business-to-business relationships. Yeah. So, by the way, this is an important term, B2B. Yeah. This is normally in a crossword well, if you have any kind of queries with this, yeah, this is often a joke of how to find that you have like sufficient business language. Yeah. So then next one, focus on customer requirements and satisfaction. This was kind of 10 years ago, but it hasn't yet arrived in all industries. Yeah. And then you have the focus on information and core competencies, which really went as well into squaring supply chain and demand chain processes. This was really when it came down to how can we actually integrate that better. And I've given you as well the literature review to it because it's kind of tough. It's kind of pocketed in different times. This is often confidential. Companies don't work necessarily with universities in open publicized way together. So we often have to sign something and say that we don't write a paper about it. And those times were when it was actually heavily published on. We still have now, at the moment, we have again a lot of research going on in that area. So, well, what did it come down to? There's a very famous piece here from Walter, who basically summarized it as such. And he said, 2000, that is when we were in the demand chain management. Now we kind of try to do the value chain management, but it doesn't often integrate. As the project seems still to be this remote entity that is difficult to integrate. And this is a challenge or an opportunity for you if you want to integrate this. Oh, sorry. So with this came, of course, the shift in the supply chains. So here we went really from cross-functional integration to cross-enterprise. Yeah, so in the past, you may remember, we had those really big companies that were potentially national companies that kind of employed whole regions. Yeah, in some countries, we still see the footprints of that. And now we have actually small enterprises that have moved on and do their own business and try to be as well global and internationally positioned. Yeah, so looking for alternatives. Then we had physical efficiency. Yeah, this is kind of automation potentially, or refining processes to market mediation. Yeah, this is where quality kind of disappeared. So if you buy it, then this is a quality that you agree on. Does that make sense? Yeah? This is a very tough one. I still have quality management in the series, but arguably from this point, there's no quality anymore. There's just the product that can go into the market. It's still quality, yeah, but it has redefined itself. Yeah. Then you have from supply focus to demand focus. Yeah? So you, depending on how many people want it, how many buy it, you actually bring it to the market. Yeah? By the way, with this in mind, if you really want to see a fabulous talk, there's a Yale professor at the moment who is on a research tour, and he did a talk in London about this, and he looked at a very controversial theme. He looked at drug cartels. It's a strange resource, yeah? So it's all kinds of drugs that are illegal, and he argued that this is a demand focus, and he actually showed that from a business model point, the supply is very superior in terms of what they have actually applied. They have really understood supply chain management, and they're an incredible profitable business. Yeah, so that is actually quite frightening that it can be so powerful. But maybe aside of the product, wonderful example, yeah, of showing how powerful supply chain management can be. Yeah, so especially with the demand focus. And then from single company product design to collaborative concurrent product and process and supply chain design. Yeah, so this means maybe as well that you actually have a look at different elements, look if you can do it in a different way. Yeah, initially from just simply cost reduction to breakthrough business models. So really new ways of doing business. And from mass market supply to tailored offerings. Yeah, so this is probably the most difficult one. Yeah, this means stakeholder management for the customer. So we have that in a few products. Did you know any products where we have that? Tailored offerings to what you want? Yeah? Car? Okay, yeah, a car. Yeah. There are a few, you are quite right. Companies that have specialized on that. Yeah, and if you are willing, then you can put it together. It's nearly in all industries, but it's normally a niche market. Yeah, so it's often a very profitable market. Yeah. Okay, where are we time-wise? Okay, I have 2 more slides, then we make the break. Sorry, I run a little bit over time. I realized that just now. So this is really something that came, the value chain idea from Porter. And this is literally the fabulous book, if you want to read it, The Competitive Advantage of Nations. And it kind of gives us a hint on what it relies. Yeah, so in projects, we actually struggle, I think, with a lot of elements of that. But this is literally the integrated notion of a competitive advantage. We have moved on a little bit from this, but in project management, this is still a good starting point. What it comes to is then really aligning a value chain. And when you look at this, there's a supply push tendency in manufacturing. Yeah, and then we have, of course, in other project industries, so especially in construction, if you want to look at this. Oh, sorry, wrong direction. You have a client pull tendency, and that is often the project-based environment, and it returns the value chain. So you have to reconsider how this is actually driven. Yeah? So if you want here, it's a buyer's value. What do we actually create that then channels to the channel value? That may be the main contractor that takes it on, and the firm value that may actually provide it, and then the suppliers that actually give you the materials. This direction change is an important one, and we have a look at this in the seminars as well, what that potentially changes. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it here for now. Any questions with supply chain management? Okay. Shall we make 10 minutes break? 10 minutes break, okay.